What up? What up? It's your man Sean P coming in live. This is Sean P Experience. This is not a regular show. This is a very, very special episode. For those that don't know, this month is National Poets Month. I thought, you know what? It'd be pretty cool to have an actual poet on the show. So I got my sister in the building, known as Kay the Reader to all of us Instagrammers. How you doing today, my sister?
Doing well, doing well. So glad to be here on the Sean P Experience this evening. Thank you for
Man,
having me.
no, thank you, my man. Dr. Raymond is in the building. Dr. Raymond, salute to our
Dr.
brother,
Raymond.
our beloved brother. This is very out of the ordinary for this show. Do you mind leading us off with a poem? Is that possible? To lead us off with a piece?
Ooh,
This is the first. Sean P first.
okay. All right. Let's find one to start out with.
What's going
Okay.
on, Raymond? I see you.
Oh. I will pick I'll go to part 2 of the book, and I will read one of those. Those are one of my short poems, and I'll start off with a little bit of wisdom. And this poem is entitled Time. Sometimes our dreams are just a minute away, yet every second seems years away. And what we need seems months away. And where we want to be seems miles away. The goals we have seem lifetimes away. And we seem not to be much further than yesterday. But sometimes our dreams are just a minute away.
Ooh,
So
thank
don't
you.
give up. Your dreams are just a minute away. You just never know when they may come true. Don't give up.
Wow. Thank you for that opening. It's all night tonight. We're going to have poems being read throughout the show as we're going along. Sit back, get your tea, get your favorite beverage and your snacks. We're going to have a good time, right? So let me give my sister the official introduction. We have Karen Talley, an emerging voice in contemporary poetry and the beloved book influencer. Was raised in a small city in South Carolina where she still resides.
Mhm.
As a teenager, she began writing poetry and song. In April 2025, she released her debut poetry collection, Something on the Inside. The book quickly gained traction on Amazon and hit #1 on the hot new releases for Black and African American, charting several times during the first 2 weeks of its release. Karen likes to think that she writes poetry for lovers and those who don't read the genre. So, along with her writing, she is known in the literary community as Kay the Reader. Through her social media platform, she has cultivated a dedicated following where she shares book recommendations, reviews, and insights into her own writing process. Her authentic and engaging presence has made her a trusted voice among the fellow readers, and her vibrant community often joins her for our live discussions about books, reading, and the joys of storytelling. I
Yeah.
have my sister Kate, the reader, in building.
Hey.
Yes. So I want to ask you a question about, let me see, something you said here in your introduction. Trying to go back to it. Okay, so charting #1 on Amazon. Let us know as a community when you first saw it, the first time you clicked on it and had that #1 by your book. How did you feel?
I couldn't believe it. I honestly, it was such a surprise. And I'll tell you how I found out, because I wasn't even paying attention. I just put the book out there and said, I hope somebody wants to read it, to be honest with you. And I was sitting here on a Sunday night, and I got a text message, and it was from Raymond. And Raymond sent it to me to let me know that my book had hit #1. I was in complete shock. And I was thinking, me? That was the thought. Me? I was I was overjoyed and nervous at the same time, because I mean, that was something big for me. May for other people, maybe, that happens to them all the time where their book hits #1 or the top 10. But for me, as a debut author that no one really knows at all, I don't know how people found out about the book aside from Instagram, Facebook, but people were buying the book, and it warmed my heart. I was just so absolutely grateful. Grateful is the word. Yes.
I mean, whenever you think about how many books are released on a daily basis now, with how
Mhm.
the self-publishing, all these other kind of things, there's so many hundreds and thousands of books released almost daily. So to be
Yeah,
number one amongst that, I think that
yeah.
says a lot.
Yes. And so it was number 1 hot new releases for poetry, Black and African American, but it also hit bestseller and it also hit American. So I it has gone up and down on the charts ever since March 15th when I announced the pre-order for the ebook, and it's been there from number 1. It like I said, it fluctuates on the charts, but I have been at the top for weeks now, and it has felt really good. I haven't checked it in a few days, so I don't know where it is now, but just knowing I hit number 1,
Yeah.
number 3, number 2, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I think it's a strong indication of the community that you have gained over time. And like you said, the trust
Yeah,
and the love that most of us feel for you is like, man, go out there and support K, get behind K. I think
and,
wonderful, wonderful job.
I appreciate it so much, and, you make a good point when you say, I have the support and the audience. I wanted to publish years ago. I wanted to publish way back in my 20s or 30s, but the timing would have been terrible because I didn't have the audience and the support. But all these years later, through social media, here I have this I like to say family, have this family of people, and I just really appreciate the support from everybody because, like you said, so many books come out every single day, every single week. And for people to say, you know what, I'm going to take my little coin that I earned and I'm going to buy this book. People just don't know how much it means to me. They really don't know.
Let me share a little bit with you, right fast. So during the pandemic, whenever my first book hit the number one in release
Mhm.
on my category,
Uh-huh.
I was at work overnight. It happened while I was still at work at like 5:45 in the morning when I realized it. It was an
Mhm.
accident when I saw it. Like you just said, it was an accident when you saw it, right? I couldn't believe it. I went and logged out of Amazon and went back into it like, man, that can't be right. And it was still there. I did a screenshot so fast because it's like it could change like that. The
Yeah.
fluctuation. I got to get a
Mhm.
screenshot while it's still number one. And
Mhm.
I went in the parking lot and I was screaming. I just couldn't believe it. I was in the parking lot just people was like, man, what's wrong with Sean? Because they didn't know I was writing. They never knew I
Yeah.
was a writer. So
Oh,
I was in the
wow.
parking lot just screaming,
Wow.
yelling. I was just so excited and I couldn't explain it, you know?
Mhm. Just a good feeling, really is.
So let's go into your writing process a little bit. Give us
Mhm.
the idea of your workspace. Is it like candles and are you a pen and paper person or do you do the laptop? Do you talk to the phone? There's so many different ways now to create. What's the cave process?
I I really prefer longhand. I love to sit down with a notebook and a pen and write. That is my preference. I have a few of my poems that I actually typed on the typewriter when I was in high school, and I still have those. But I love longhand writing. There's something so intimate to me about writing in longhand into a notebook, and I like going through and doing the editing of the poem in the notebook, adding different lines to it. And also I don't trust electronics. I'm always afraid I'm going to lose things. I'll give you an example. I had a relative who was staying with me at one point, and she accidentally got a virus on my computer. I lost a lot of work. And the good news is most of my work I was able to recover because I had it in a notebook first. But there are probably, I don't know how many poems I may have lost that I didn't write in longhand. So I told myself after that happened, girl, go back to longhand. And so I have in my file cabinet in the back notebooks full of poems, file folders full of poems. Some poems I have 3 or 4 copies of the same poems just because I was so fearful of losing some of my work. But I'm not a light a candle, play music kind of writer. I have tried that, and that's just not how I write. A lot of things do come to me, as you say, in the car. I will hit the voice memo, the voice recorder on my phone, and I will record as I'm driving because that's when a lot of my thoughts come to me. Sometimes things will wake me up out of my sleep, and I'll reach over and grab my phone and either type something in or I'll record it into my phone. I write a lot from emotion as well. And I've mentioned this before to some of our Bookstagram friends. I write my best when my heart is broken. And I haven't had a broken heart in a long time. So I haven't haven't written a
It's
poem.
funny. It's funny you say that because most people think that Mary J. Blige best work whenever she's down bad, hurting, and the best Mary J. Blige whenever she happy and all that. They be like, we don't want that Mary. We want
Yeah,
the toe up Mary.
yeah. And I write a lot when I'm purging, when I am resetting. If I've been hurt or sad or broken in some way, I tend to find my best release by grabbing paper and pen and writing. Not to say that that's the only time I write, but I feel like I'm at my best when I'm very emotional. Sometimes I will. There have been times where I've been asked to write poems for different occasions. Those are the most difficult because I have to sit down and be disciplined enough to write for a specific occasion, and I don't normally do that. I might just sit I could be sitting on my front porch watching the squirrels run around in the yard, and I'll say, "Oh, the grass is green today," or whatever, and just sit and write a poem. The squirrels are scurrying across the yard, the birds are flying and singing, and sometimes I write that way, but, it's hard for me to just say, "I'm going to sit down and write a poem." That is hard. That's hard
So
for me.
imagine your book is number one. It's charting up and down the scales. Imagine some
Mhm,
big company sees it and say, you know
mhm.
what? We love K. And they come to you and they say, you know what, K, we're going to publish you, traditional publish with this
Mhm.
company. And your task is to write these 100 whatever poems just for the
Ooh,
sake of this, the business. How do you feel about that? How would you go about in your mind doing that? Hypothetically.
I don't know. I don't know. One thing I might do is draw from what I've already written, because, like I said, I have so many poems already here in the house. Maybe I would be able to go through those and find, poems that fit together in a way that would make a nice collection. Other than that, I would have to be disciplined, uh, to sit down and write. I would need, though, uh, of course, motivation would be money for something like that, but really, what would inspire me? What would I draw from in order to feel the emotion I need to actually put those words on paper? So that's very important to me. I don't want to write just for the sake of writing. I want to write because it means something to me.
So Raymond said, word on the street is that K has thousands of poems ready to be published. So with that being
Amen.
said, I was gonna wait for the latter part to the interview, but so can we expect a part two? Or can we expect other works to be published? On on
Um,
the heels of the success of this book, on the heels,
I don't know. Everything is just, even though these poems are old, right? Because the majority of these poems I wrote when I was a teenager, in my 20s, in my early 30s. But the poems here do span. I like to say between 14 and 40, give or take a year or two on either end, right? Um, Even though these poems are old to me, they're new to everyone else. And this book is new. So the thought of trying to put together a second collection right now where everything is still fresh, no, that's not that's not in the plans for me right now. I actually want to work on something different.
Different, like I gotta ask.
Different different like I've always felt I was a storyteller. My mom said it was because for the first 6 years of my life, I was an only child. Um, and I played alone and I had to play by myself. So I made up stories. She said I made up stories all the time. I had imaginary friends. I would always talk to myself. And so growing up, I always was writing stories. I always wanted to be a novelist. And I think that I might actually, at this point in time, focus on that to see how it works out for me. And if I'm not feeling it, then I will pursue something else, but at least I want to try. So I'm not really focusing on poetry right now as a writer. I'm focusing more on, can I actually complete a novel that is actually good?
Yeah. Well, the good thing about that is we notice some of our poets that become novelists have made some amazing novels. I mean,
Mhm.
like Clinton Smith, of course, PB, I but the PB, right? Williams, Honore. You know, they made some incredible novels with their prose. So I look forward
Yes.
to seeing what you got, okay?
One thing I'll tell you this, Jonathan, I took a fiction writing class years ago. And my writing teacher told me the stories that I turned into her, they were so prose heavy. She said, "Your writing is so beautiful, but can you maintain that for an entire novel?" She said, "If you can't maintain that for an entire novel, don't start it that way because people will expect that prose from start to finish. Can you do that?" And I'll give you an example if you don't mind. This is the poem that she told me that. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But she said, "Yeah, I don't know if you're going to be able to maintain that throughout. So you might want to reconsider writing that way the whole time." And this is a poem entitled Autumn's Eve. It's on page 48 of the book. And here's the example. So this is me trying to start a novel. You came into my life. You came across my life easy, like a cool breeze on an autumn's eve. I couldn't believe my fortune or my fate. Destiny was just too kind, or so I thought at the time. And she said, "Karen, that's beautiful. Are you going to do that for 350 pages?" And I said, "No." And she said, "So don't write your novel that way."
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that. I wanted to tell you something about the long form writing. You was talking about that a little while ago, the long form. So one of
Mhm.
my dear friends here in the area, Keith Nickerson, he's written a ton of books, all in long form. I mean,
Oh,
every book is about 700 or more pages. Every one. I've seen them in person. So of course here in Louisiana, we have hurricanes here, hurricanes, floods, and everything. And one night it was a real bad storm, and they had a
no.
leak in the roof, and he had 100 page, 1,000 page book, and it got water damaged.
Oh,
I don't
no.
know how much of it he was able to like recover or like save,
Mhm.
but it had water damage and everything on his. And I was like, man, that's tough.
Yeah, that's
That's a big
heartbreaking.
loss. That's a big
Yeah,
loss.
sometimes what I do is, like, what I would do in the past, I would write maybe 10, 15 poems, but then I would go ahead and I would type them and I would save them. And I would save them. I'm so old school, young people watching, that I would save them on floppy disks Remember the big floppy disk, the large ones. Then I would save them on the small ones. Then I would save them on flash drives.
Okay,
So and then I had the paper copies that I would print out, and I'd have the regular copy in the notebook. I'm telling you,
okay.
I
What
had
did
so
you
many copies of my poems.
what did you find floppy disk is the question.
Okay, so Jonathan, I'm a little bit older than you.
No, 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 no. I understand that, but they still make them is the question.
They know they remember I started writing back in the 80s.
True. Gotcha.
So over the years,
Got it.
I would every time CDs, every time there was a new iteration of storage, I would save my poems on the different types of electronics that they would have, but I always kept my paper copies too.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now, Raymond in the building with his comments. I got to ask you this question. You and
Mhm.
your live with Raymond are always entertaining. Y'all chemistry, the dynamic between y'all. Tell us about what does Brother Raymond mean to you? And of course, he helped you to kind of spur you along with this project. Give us the importance of Raymond in the book community.
So meeting Raymond, I, I get emotional when I talk about Raymond. I like to joke when I talk about Raymond, but there are times I want to cry out of happiness because I believe that we connect with people for a reason. I don't believe in coincidence. And it is not a coincidence to me that I met Raymond and that we became friends and that he really motivated me to get this done and to publish this book. For about 2 years, he I always say he pestered me, but I would like to say he encouraged me. "Kay, when is your book coming out? When are you gonna work on this poetry book? You know you're a writer and you talk about, getting something out there. When's that gonna happen?" So, Jonathan, way back in November of 2023, I sent Raymond my manuscript. He and, Alicia from Pretty Brown Eye Reader, and I asked them to read it because I wanted to see if if other people would enjoy the work. And both of them read the manuscript and they both came back and said, "You've got to do this. You have to publish this book." And so I sat on it. I sat on it until really the end of 2024 is when I got serious because Raymond kept asking me the question, "When's your book coming out, Kay?" And I hired an editor. I took that step. To me, and you asked about the writing process earlier. One of I'm transitioning to the publishing process here. So writing is one thing, and you can write to your heart's content, and you can think, "Oh, everything looks perfect." But there needs to be another eye to look at your work and make sure everything is professional. So I hired an editor that happened to be friends with my first lady from church, and I was following this lady on Instagram anyway. Didn't realize she was friends with my first lady, and she ended up editing my book for me. And I am so grateful for using an editor because, as a writer, you think, "Oh, everything looks good. Everything looks good on the page and it's perfect," right? But when an editor gets a hold of your work and they look at it, they can find all the mistakes that you don't initially see. They can help frame your work. "Did you mean to use this word, Karen? Because I don't think that's the word you meant to use here. Did you mean this one?" And then after rereading, I was, "Oh, that she's right. I did have the wrong word there." So that was very important to me. But again, going back to your question, it was because of Raymond that I actually said, "Okay, I think I'm going to do this now." So Raymond means a lot to me in that sense. And I really do appreciate him for encouraging me and supporting me and just being one of my besties, one of my best friends.
I love great friendship stories. How did you initially meet Raymond?
So back in the days of Black Readers Con, I was in the audience in one of the lives that Classy did, and Classy brought me up on stage just for a few minutes, and then I came off. Well, Raymond happened to be in that live, and he saw me, and I don't know what he thought about me, but he reached out to me in my DMs, and he was like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm Raymond." And I'm like, "Okay, hey, how are you?" And he said, "Would you like to be in a live with me?" And I was thinking, "Okay." And he said, "We're going to talk about lighthearted nonfiction." And I was like, "Lighthearted nonfiction? What nonfiction is lighthearted?" That was my thought. So I said, "He seems like a nice young man, so okay, I'll join." And so I joined the live with him, and that's how we met, and we've been connected ever since then.
To all the folks that came to Instagram kind of after the Black ReaderCon era, I'm always trying to paint a picture of them of how it was at that time. Like all
Oh
of
wow.
us, we'd be on live every night, 7 days a
Mhm,
week, for hours at a
mhm.
time.
Yes,
Every person
yes.
had their own day of the week, and for
Uh-huh.
hours at a time, we on there taking turns going up, and the whole wave of that energy was so good during the pandemic. We still
It
kind of
was.
sheltered inside and on lockdown. That was an amazing time in the book space.
And so many of us met each other, especially through Black Readers Con, and we had such a great time together. And, I love the energy of the community, especially during that time where we were sharing our love of reading and books and introducing each other to new authors. And it was a wonderful time. And I'm just so glad to have been a part of it. And that also being a part of that also made me think, "You know what? I can do this. I
Hmm.
I can I can get this done because I now have such a connection
Yeah,
with, like I said, this family of
some of the
people,
people. Hmm.
and I knew I could get the support. If I had done this 10, 15 years ago, I the support just wouldn't have been there."
And the good thing about that time too, with everything being on lockdown and restrictions on traveling, so
Mhm.
many authors had to come to us and hang out with us. They
Yeah.
couldn't they
Yep.
couldn't go on book tour and everything, so they was on
Mhm.
live with us on a regular
Mhm.
night. Robert Jones Jr. and Honor Ray and this person, that person. We kicking it like family every night.
And you know what? I will say this, that being on social media, especially being able to hang out with a lot of these different authors, just just brings them closer to home, if you will. You see that they're real people. And I hope that people will look at me and just know Kay is just Kay. Yeah, that's just who she is. She's not up here. She's right here with us. You know, my grandson, he's 8 years old, but one of the things he always says is be humble. That's his thing. Be humble. You need to be humble. And I try to remember that, even, in accolades or things that people say, I'm appreciative of the support, but I remember Jackson saying be humble, you know.
Yeah. And I want to say in closing about Raymond. I met Raymond months ago at the
Mhm.
Zora Neale Hurston Summit in New York,
Yeah.
and literally bumped into him going to the elevator. Right, I was in a rush to go and do something. I'm like, "Oh man, Raymond!" And I'm glad to report. 'Cause I love saying these moments. He is such a cool guy in person. Because some folks are
Mm,
way different online versus when you finally meet him. Whoever you think Raymond is, that's who that guy actually is. Cool, cool brother, collective, calm, swift, with the mind, and he's an awesome guy, man. And that weekend they had a lot of different breakout sessions. I'm not saying it
mhm.
because he's my homeboy, but he had the best breakout session to me. The whole weekend, Raymond's session that was the one.
Mm.
That was the one.
And, a lot of people ask me when Raymond and I met in person, and I tell everyone Raymond and I have never met in person. We've only met through social media, but we talk all the time like we've known each other forever. So,
'Cause I met Raymond via the Black Men Reading Book Club like years ago, like my
mhm.
Facebook days. Before I even came on Instagram side, I was knowing Raymond and Demetrius since way back then. So finally meeting him in person, that was a long time coming. And it was good as I thought it was going to be. It was great.
Good.
I got this brand new question I'm asking my writing friends lately, Kay. Are you
Okay.
ready for being the first person on live?
Okay.
Okay, the title of being a poet. My question is, like, when do you know you're a poet? You've been writing for a long time. So when you
Mhm.
first started writing, is it like, okay, you know what? I'm writing these poems, I'm doing the practice, I'm a poet. Or like, is it when you start sharing it with other people? Are you a poet? Or when you finally publish it and it's in your hand? Like, at what point do you say, you know what? I'm a poet? When was that for you?
Um, that was probably in high school. Actually, I guess I would have to blend poet and songwriter together because in high school I was writing songs for my spiritual choir and teaching them, I can't play an instrument, but I would make up melodies in my head. I would write the lyrics, I would write the verse, the chorus, the bridge. I would
Mm,
then go to school and teach my classmates the song that I would write. And so the first time I heard my lyrics coming back at me, I said, "Oh wow." And it was amazing. I said, "I wrote that."
mhm,
And I
mhm,
hear it coming from
mhm.
somebody else. That was, I think, when I felt like I'm a writer. Even at that young age, I felt that. I was like, I am a writer, even though I
That's
didn't know
awesome.
it
At an
after that.
early age, that's awesome. Because like
But
after that,
I was published though, I wasn't published though until the late or is it the early was it late 90s? Early 2000s. I wasn't published though until the early 2000s. I was published in an anthology and then in a magazine and a couple of chat books. But then after those publications, I just stopped. I guess I was busy with life, you know. So now I feel like a poet. Now I really feel like a poet now.
that's awesome. I love the wide range of answers I've been getting. One of my friends has like 7 books of poetry, and she said
Mhm.
it wasn't until her third book. And I was like, why the third book? Out of all of them, why the third
Yeah.
book brought it over the top? It's different.
Mhm.
It comes to you at a different time because you can write it and put it out, and it's getting acclaim and everything, and still not feel like a writer or not
Yeah.
feel like whatever until it's a certain realization that comes.
Mhm. Especially seeing the book when I first put it on Amazon and seeing it out there, I said, "Okay, girl, this is real. It's real. It's out there now." So,
Now,
yeah.
do you ever participate in like open mic poetry or like poet slams or like any kind of a live event kind of situation? Do you ever do those?
I used to go down we have a place here, and I used to go down on Sunday nights and read poetry sometimes, but I was more of an observer and a listener. I remember one time I entered a haiku contest. I mean, I've written all these haikus, and man, I'm killing it. And so I go down there to the spot and they have the contest, and this girl whooped my butt with it. Her haikus were so good. They were hilarious. I couldn't even read mine for laughing at hers. She was so super talented and I loved it. Um I I've been on stage, but I'm not like a slam poet or a performance poet. For me, I feel like I'm the kind of poet you sit and read. I've tried my hand at performance poetry like Poetry Ho in the book. That would be one that would be fun to perform. But for the most part, I think It's poems that you would sit down, get cozy in a cup of tea, and you would read it. I feel that way. I don't know how other people feel about it, but that's how I feel about it.
Okay, this is a good time for a segue when you said that. Could you please share with us your first piece? I think in the book is called "Simply a Poet." I love that
Yeah,
piece, like the
yeah, yeah.
most. My favorite of all times. Okay, I love that piece.
Okay. Simple Poet is on page 3 of the book. I've never considered myself to be a wordsmith or a literary lord of lyrics, language, and linguistics. I've never been a titan of tongue twisters or an alphabetic acrobat. I'm just a simple poet. That's that. I'm not a seamstress of similes or soliloquies. I'm not a master of metaphors or counting rhyme scores or schemes. In my dreams, maybe. I'm just a simple poet. That's me. I don't have a romance with repetition or rhetoric. I don't have a passion for my I don't have a passion for prepositions. There's no method to my madness. I just grab my pad and my pen I caress to express my progress in life, love, and relationships. I'm just a simple poet. That's it.
Okay, please take us to like when did you write this? What were you thinking? What were you feeling? Like bring us to that moment if you can. That's such a beautiful piece. You was
Thank
killing it.
you.
You was flipping. Oh my god.
I think I wrote this one in the mid, was it the mid 2000s maybe? And this is when I was trying to build a collection. It was called, I think, The Diary of Me. I had several different quote unquote small collections I had written, and a lot of these poems come from these different collections. But in Diary of Me, it was like thinking about how Alicia Keys had come out with what was hers, Diary of um
Man, what's the title of that album? Somebody in the
I
chat, please bless us in the chat. I know Raymond always know everything.
So I said, why couldn't I do that as a poet and kind of write a collection, The Diary of Me, you know? And so I thought, I want to tell people about the fact that I'm just a simple poet. I'm not a performance poet. I'm not one that's going to be on, Def Poetry Jam or on a stage like that. I'm just a simple poet. I'm not fancy with my words so I just sat down
But,
and put that together.
but Jay, but then you saying I'm simply a poet. You flipping so many words and you doing like the double entendre. And as you saying, I'm just a poet. It's the ultimate performance piece. Like if you did that in a slam or whatever, they're gonna be
Uh-huh.
like, yeah, it's gonna be a crazy response. You know what I'm saying?
And two, one of my problems is I don't really memorize my poems. I used to try to do that, but I can't really remember. I can remember for some of my poems, I can remember like the beginning of the poem or certain lines of a poem,
Mhm.
but I
Yeah,
yeah, my memory
yeah.
fails me. I would have to read it.
So uh me going to open mic a lot, performing.
Mhm.
I haven't got to that memorization state. I can't wait till I get there. That's the next
Yeah.
level to memorize. But I go there
Mhm.
most time on my phone or with a device and I'm reading. And most of us that are there, we're doing it that way. It's not just me. So I never feel bad about reading from the
Yeah.
phone or from the notebook. You got to do it. You got to do it.
Yep, I would always take paper with me when I got on stage. I always did. But I loved being in that environment, in the open
Yeah.
mic environment
Oh
with
my
all
God.
those other talented
Oh,
people. I would glean so much about
mhm.
the use of words and how people can twist and frame their words. I was like, wow, I can do that. I'm a writer. I can do that. But I what was hard for me is trying to write and break away from rhyme scheme because I love to make words rhyme. And so writing free verse is very difficult for me. For me, writing free verses is harder than rhyme because I'm just so used to that cadence.
So for the person watching this that have never attended an open mic in their life, they've never gone to a slam, they maybe only seen Love Jones back in the day. Could you explain to them the environment, the ambiance most times, the people? Give them kind of a glimpse of what that's like.
So with open mic night and different places, of course, do it in a different way. They usually have a set of poets or standard poets that will come up on stage and deliver poems. These are the people who get up every week. Everyone knows them. They know their style. They love them. They request them. They request certain poems of those poets. But also, you have quote unquote amateurs, people who just love poetry, love the craft of writing, and they want to share their work on stage for everyone else to hear. And so you go to the event, you sign your name. Once you sign your name, that's they're going to call you up there. You sign your name, and then they'll call you up on stage. You get to read however many pieces. It's usually two or three pieces of your poems, and then people get to know your work through those pieces. So it is a very cool environment, and everybody's always very supportive at those open mics. They support everyone, especially if your style is different from everyone else. They really do appreciate that.
That's right. That's right. Now you go into that's the open mic night. When you go into like slam poetry, most times
That's different.
they have
Yeah.
judges, they have
Hmm.
a rating scale, and they have different rounds you can win or not, and that get real
Yeah.
tricky on the slam side when it comes to
Yes.
like how they're judging things. And it gets
Mhm.
very tricky on the slam side.
And slam poetry, if you haven't been to a slam event, I went to one in Charlotte once,
Mhm.
and it was amazing.
Yeah.
The poets were just, I mean, I just couldn't believe what I was hearing.
Did you
Amazing. And
did
like
you
I said,
did
they
you did you
have
fit?
judges. Hmm?
Did you participate?
Oh no, I was in the audience. But I just so enjoyed listening. And my sister, who doesn't really read or write poetry, I said, Tammy, you've got to go with me. And so she and I went with one of her friends and my cousin. We went and they absolutely loved it. We had a ball. It was wonderful. I love a slam poetry contest. It's a lot of fun.
The only thing about the slam poetry, I have done it a couple times.
Hmm.
Sometimes the judges are so biased. Like the person that always goes kind of
Yeah,
have a sway already versus a newer
yeah,
person. And
yeah.
sometimes people are so good at like they're using their voice and their facial and their
Mhm,
hands, but they're not really
mhm.
saying anything. But
Right.
as soon
Yeah.
as they're saying something so dope. When you listen, like
Right.
you didn't even say nothing. And all this emotion and passion
Mhm.
and they get a 10, they get a 10. I'm like, oh man, come on, man. It's fun. It's fun.
Yep.
It's fun. So my next question was about assembling the collection. You
Mm.
have poems from a wide range of time. You have thousands of them, you said. But Raymond said. How do you
Raymond.
select these ones that made it into the book? How did you find out like this one gonna make it, this one not? What's that process?
It was hard deciding. I would come home at night and just go through my poems and read them or skim them. Honestly, sometimes just skim them and say, okay, I kind of remember that poem. But trying to figure out first how I was going to frame the book because I didn't know. And at first, it was all of the quote unquote love poems in the book, and I didn't really have anything else in there. And I thought, no, I want to put some of these other poems about, the self reflection and introspection. I want to put those in there. And then I was like, well, what about the religious poems and the songs that I wrote? I want to put those out there too. So then I thought, how am I going to put all of these together? So at first, I just had all of them lumped together, and I asked Raymond and Alicia, what do you think about this? And Raymond, of course, is like, you can have three different books. And I was like, I'm not doing that, sir. So I had to come back and say, okay, why don't I do, my heart, my mind, my spirit? I could do it in three different parts. But then I had to think of a title because I didn't have a title at first. It was hard trying to decide what the title was going to be. So once I settled on the title, something on the inside, it made it easier for me to kind of pare down what I wanted to share. Because I had some poems that were so personal, I didn't want them in the book. So they're still in there in that file cabinet. And, um, but it was hard. I would just go through and say, yeah, I think this fits. No, this one doesn't. And of course, after the fact, you always look and say, dog, I should have put that one in there, you know, but that's okay. I'm very pleased with what made the cut. I just went with my instinct.
Is there a particular one that you wish, like, man, I should have put that in there? And you can think about?
One that I wrote, what was it, a year or two ago, that is a crowd favorite on Bookstagram that I read on Snaps, is called 759. And that one did not make the cut. I didn't put that one in there. And that's because it wasn't explicit, but it was very provocative. And all I could think about, in all honesty, was I can't imagine the elder folks in my life reading this, or my grandsons growing up one day and reading this. It didn't make the cut. But at the same time, I really like that poem.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I understand, and I'm glad you said that. Let's go there for a little while. You had your
Mhm.
family all together. I saw Easter Sunday and the whole thing, and people having the book. What was it like having your family members have the book, read the book? What's that been like in your writing experience?
Oh, it's a great feeling to see my family with the book. They're like, "I've got my book," and they'll tag me on Facebook, or they'll bring it to church or what have you. It's very, very exciting. Even my family in other states, they're sending me pictures that they have the book. And I'm just so appreciative, because sometimes you could have family that doesn't support you in your efforts. But my cousin Angie in particular, Angie was like, I read this back in 19 so and so. Yes, you did, because she was one of my early beta readers back, way back in the early 1990s. She and my best friend Lisa, a lot of these poems they read way back then. I mean, we were young. And Angie was like, she said she was going through the book. She's like, oh, yeah, I remember this. I remember this. I remember these poems. And so she has been one of my biggest cheerleaders and biggest supporters. But it does feel good that my family has been supportive. I gave my Aunt Ruby her copy the other day. Because she said, Karen, I need to talk to you about something. And I said, what is it? And she said, I need to know how to get a copy of your book, because she's 86 years old, right? And I said, Aunt Ruby, I've got your copy. Don't worry, I've got you. I'm going to give you your book. So I signed her copy and gave it to her the other day. And she started reading, and I have to say that Aunt Ruby means a lot. When I was born, my mom and I actually lived with my Aunt Ruby for 5 years after I was born. And Aunt Ruby, technically, I don't want to say she raised me, because my mother did raise me, but because we lived together, we spent an extraordinary amount of time together. And we watched Sesame Street together. She said I made her watch Sesame Street every day. So what happens on Sesame Street? There's a lot of rhythm and rhyme in teaching kids. That's where I developed my love of poetry, not understanding that nursery rhymes were poems. And so when Ruby said we used to sit together every day and watch Sesame Street. So to be able to hand her my book, that That meant a lot. That meant a lot to me.
Man, that's ooh. You know, the common theme tonight is about community. It's about family. And there are
Mm,
so many milestones in being a writer, but we're hitting on some of the key points. Like the Amazon thing, that's cool as one thing. And your
mhm.
family, the actual loved ones having it and
Yeah. Yeah.
exposure, that's a whole different thing, man. And your loved ones actually seeing it come to fruition, man. It's
Yes.
incredible
Yes.
milestones.
It
Incredible
really
milestones.
is. It's amazing. Oh, let me tell you all, speaking of community, let me tell you what happened at work today. I was sitting in a meeting at work with my department, not my team, my department, which is over 100 some odd people. And I'm sitting there. You know how you multitask during a meeting because you really are busy, you need to work on something else? I'm multitasking. And then I look up at the screen. On the screen is my book cover, the synopsis of the book, and my picture. I am frozen. I'm like, oh my goodness. My coworker put my book in the department meeting so that all these people got to see it today. I
Ah,
was I was horrified, embarrassed, and thankful at the same time. Does that make sense? Because
yeah,
I'm
it is.
at work, and I certainly wasn't expecting this. But when I tell you my coworkers, I have had so many people at work who I didn't tell about my book come
Yes.
over to my desk for
Mhm.
me to sign their book and take a picture with them.
Come on, man. Come on. So this is a good
Um,
conversation. Like we all navigate this thing differently. So most jobs I work on, they don't know about the Sean P experience. They don't know about me being a writer and a speaker.
mhm.
I keep it very separate on purpose. So how was that for you? Like prior to that moment, were you going around talking about writing
No,
and bookstagram and cater
no,
reader? Right.
no, no. So, well, first of all, they knew about Kay the Reader because they know we read at my job. On my team, we have a library full of books. Everybody on my team is a reader, except maybe two people. We exchange books. We
Wow.
read all the
Wow.
time. My team
That's a
does.
that's an
Yes.
incredible theme.
Yes. And we talk about books almost every day at work. So they knew about Kay the Reader. That wasn't a surprise. But because they knew about Kay the Reader, some of my coworkers, not all of them, but some of them do follow me on social media. So they knew I had a book. Now, I didn't tell my manager, but somehow my manager's manager found out. And now she's going around telling people. I said, now I can't solicit at work. She said, you're not soliciting. I'm telling people. Here comes the director of HR the other day over to my desk. And she's looking at me and I'm looking at her. And she said, I heard you have a book. And I'm like, yes, but I'm not soliciting at work. She said, I know you didn't tell me, somebody else did. And I said, okay, as long as we're clear that I am not soliciting, but people at work are talking and sharing. One girl, bless her heart, she's so sweet. She put my book on display at her desk. She said so that when people come by, she could talk to them about it. That is sweet. That is just so very sweet.
Dope. That's dope.
But I told them,
That's
I said,
dope.
y'all be careful, don't get me fired around here.
Exactly. 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 Yes. 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 We have a question from the chat. I want to get to this. It said, does Kay still connect to her older poems, or is she like, nah, I don't like that anymore? How you feel about your older work, basically?
Woo! It was hard to talking about building the collection and thinking about what to put in here. Some of these poems were so personal. I thought, I don't know if I want to share that. Poems like People Think They Know Me, and the other one is When I See Myself, that I'm most afraid. All of the wrong that I've done, all the mistakes that I've made is when I see myself that I'm most afraid. I was like, am I going to put that in there? And it's because, Malcolm, you know, yeah, when I think about some of those older poems, and thank you for asking that question, do I know her anymore? Do I still connect with her? How do I feel about those old poems? That girl, that young woman, and all she went through, and her fears and vulnerabilities, her mistakes, the stupid things that I did when I was young, all of those things, I'm still connected to her, very much connected to her. And I see her all in this book, all up and through this book. I'm still connected to the old Karen and these old poems, even with the things that hurt. I'm still connected to. Um, I'm glad I'm not like her anymore, but I still love her. I still love her very much. She was just young and wanted to love and be, love someone. She was someone who had great friendships and maybe lost some of those friendships because the people she thought really were her friends she couldn't trust. Um, or maybe she did some things she wasn't supposed to do and caused some self-imposed problems in her life. But yeah, I love that girl. I still love her, and these poems remind me of her. Mhm.
Could you please bless us with the sinner's prayer in your
Oh,
spiritual side of the spiritual side of the book?
yes, I will. Sinner's prayer. Dear Lord Jesus in heaven, it is in your name I pray for guidance and comfort and strength along my way. Forgive me, I'm a sinner. I've gone against your will, but I know that you must love me because you keep me still. I confess with my mouth and believe in my heart that you died and rose again to give me a new start. I know that you're returning. I know you're coming soon. No man knows the hour, morning, night, or noon. Dear Lord Jesus in heaven, it is in your name I plead that when you return for your children, you will please remember me.
Mm, yeah. So take us to where you were when you wrote that. You know, mindset wise, emotion, feelings.
I don't know. I really don't know, but I can gather um that I was really in tune to the fact that I knew I needed salvation. So I prayed this prayer. I grew up in the church. My grandfather was a minister, and my grandparents' idea of fun was going to church. So we as kids didn't have a choice. You were going. I lived with my grandparents for about 3 years, but have known them all my life. I grew up around them. And my grandfather was the type that used to sit in the kitchen reciting scriptures and singing hymns and praying. As a young girl, I had no clue what he was doing. I just knew that that's what he used to do. And so, yeah, my power's about to go out on my laptop. So entertain the people for a second.
Okay,
Let
yes,
me make
ma'am.
this
I'll keep.
working.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So if y'all enjoying the live in the chat, man, give me some comments, give me some questions. I want to thank y'all personally for coming out to the Sean P Experience. I know it's the NBA playoffs right now. You could be watching the game, you could be going to do something else, but you're here supporting our sister, Kay, the reader, an incredible session. Go out there and get the book, support the book. Amazon.com, wherever you get your favorite books, and support our sister Kay. She's back in the building.
I'm back. But yeah, so yeah, as I said, growing up in the church and growing up with a grandfather, grandmother, very religious, and I used to teach Sunday school and Bible study, and my whole life I've been in church, with the exception of the first time I went to college. I didn't see church. I was out there, having a good time. But church has always been a foundation for me. Spirituality has always been a foundation for me. So I I must have been feeling in this moment, I need to pray this prayer because maybe at the time that I wrote it, I wasn't in the best place spiritually. Maybe it was coming back into what I'd known and grown up with. So that would be my guess. That would be my guess.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that analysis on the breakdown. Um, I want to ask, who are some of your favorite poets growing up? Like, who are some of your Mount Rushmore of poets? Who would that be for you?
Langston Hughes, number one. Dr. Maya Angelou, Nikki Giovanni, um, probably Gwendolyn Brooks as well. And although I don't know as many poems, Paul Laurence Dunbar, County Cullen, um, those would be, but Langston, Maya, and Nikki, those three. I Langston was the first Black person I ever saw on the cover of a book. I didn't know
Really?
Black people could write books until I saw Langston Hughes on the cover of a book. Dr.
Mm.
Maya Angelou would have been the second, because once I read Cage Bird, that was it for me. I was in love with her. And then Nikki Giovanni, I like to call her the rebel. Just amazing, and to have I heard Maya speak live. I never got to meet her, but I met Nikki, and I met her twice. Actually went to go see her twice in the same day. I was just so enamored. I went that morning, came home, and then took my cousin and my best friend and said, "We're going back." And we went back that night to hear her again. And talking to her about poetry, she told me, Sean, when we were talking about poetry, she told me that, let me tell you something right now. If you're writing poetry because you want to be famous or because you want to make money, don't write it for that reason, because people don't buy poetry like they buy novels. If you're going to write poetry, you're going to do it from your heart because you love it. And I said, yes, ma'am. I never forgot that. And so I continue to write from that perspective. This isn't about getting rich, being famous, making money. It's not about that. It's about the emotion behind it. It's about hoping to inspire people, just to share my inner thoughts and feelings with others, and hope that they like it. That's what it's about for me.
So, are there any like current present day poets out there that really, I would say, tickle your fancy, if you will? Anybody out there currently?
I would say, yes, I love Ramika Bingham Risher. I always call her my best friend. I really love the way she writes, and I'm so glad that I got to meet her in person. Crystal Wilkinson. I told my family I would leave them for Crystal. Say I would leave y'all for Crystal Wilkinson in a heartbeat. Also, I like Tariana Tank Ball from Tank and the Bangas. Now I know you from New Orleans, so I know you know Tank and the Bangas. So I love her. I love her. I love Bridget Bianca, my Bookstagram sister out in LA. I have her book Be Trouble. I love her. Um, of course, Jasmine Mans. And let me tell you something. I had to stop reading a lot of other poets when I got the idea that I was putting this collection together, because reading so many other really good poets made me feel very insecure. And it made me feel at times, oh, my stuff isn't good enough. I don't know if I want to do
I
this.
understand what you mean.
So yeah, I
Hmm.
had to set aside other poets, and I miss reading other poets. So now that this book is out, I can get back to reading other poets, and that makes me happy.
So, would it be a National Poet Month? Is there anything that you've done this month? Like, are you writing still? Like, because of this month, or do you post certain things during this month? How do you participate? Is the question.
Well, this year for National Poetry Month, the only thing I did was release my book. That was it. That was it.
There is no better answer than that. Put the book out.
I haven't had the mental or emotional capacity to do anything else. This has been a very busy time for me.
Yeah, yeah,
But
sure.
that's what I did for National Poetry Month. I released my book.
Right. So on this show, I love to always inspire and motivate the next wave of writers. And so
Mhm.
many bookstagrammers out there have so much talent, I think. What would
Yeah.
you say to the fellow people on the ground? They have things in their phones saved, they have file cabinets and stuff, and it's just
Mm.
sitting there. What would you say to inspire and motivate them to go ahead and get it out there to the masses?
Yeah, I would say write. Write as much as you can. Even the things that you think other people won't like, write it anyway, because different things impact different people in different ways. So write. Also, be confident in your ability. Practice your skills. Make sure to read other people, read other poets, or if you're not interested in writing poetry, but a novel or what have you, make sure you read. Reading is key. Reading helps you in so many different ways, but I know I'm probably preaching to the choir here when I say that, but also encourage yourself. I had other people who were encouraging me, but I had to encourage myself and tell myself that I could do it. And here we are today.
Always the biggest obstacle is the self, and that's why I asked the question earlier about like when do you identify yourself as a poet?
Hmm.
Somebody can introduce you, like, oh, we got the poet K the reader, until
Yeah.
you're really, really sparking your own heart. You can't
Hmm.
really walk into it and
Yeah.
step into it until you take it. So that's why I asked that question.
You know what? When people say stuff like that, I laugh. So it cracks me up. I don't know why it does. I guess I'm just giddy with excitement. I don't know, but just to think now, think of how you think of yourself, and you're thinking, little old me, little old me, really? It cracks me up. Like today when I saw my book on the big screen at work, and all these people are in this meeting, I froze, you know, out of nervousness. But yeah, I it's taking some getting used to, Jonathan. It is.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. But yeah, I know a lot of our fellow writers, man. We always have a stash everywhere. And I'm always telling my fellow poets, like, man, just take some of your stash. It's already written. Put it together in the manuscript. Get somebody to put some eyes on it, and
Yes.
persuade it, and like the work is already done. It's not
Yeah.
reinventing the wheel. You have things
Yeah.
already written. I'm not saying get a blank piece of paper and start
Hmm.
doing 100 pages, but you already have things together. Just compile it and
Yeah.
give
Get
it a
it
shot.
together. Get it
Hmm.
together. Get someone you really, really trust to read it. Like I knew I could trust Raymond and Alicia, and I knew
Yeah,
that they weren't going to tell anybody what was going on. Um, in case I decided I didn't want to do it. But I trusted them because I knew Alicia reads a lot of poetry. And I knew of course Raymond reads poetry, but he reads everything, and I trusted their opinion. And we also have to be willing to take criticism from other people. And also when they say, that one's okay, but I don't know about that one, or you need to fix this or change this around, or whatever the case may be, you have to be willing to listen to advice from other people. And so if you are looking to write a book, whatever the genre may be, you know, take some classes if you can. I Everybody's not going to give that advice, but I think sometimes being in an environment with other people with like-minded goals, with similar creative proclivities, if you will, it can inspire you, but also that is your foundation for building a good gauge on how well you're writing. You know, that's I think that's very
Yeah.
important.
And
And
we spoke on
yeah,
the poetry, the open mics earlier, and the slams, things like that earlier. But being in
mhm,
an environment surrounded by fellow poets and just
yeah,
having the conversations on the side, and after you
yeah,
go and y'all talk after the event, they give you their little tidbits of affirmation and confirmation. You
yeah,
kind of gain more confidence. Like, okay, I can do
mhm,
this thing. I can go up there and be more comfortable in the public. You start getting more confidence in your own
yeah.
ability.
And go outside of your comfort zone. That's another thing. Um, I have been to poetry readings where when I look at the audience, I say, I don't have anything in common probably with anybody in here except our love of poetry. Everything, the slam events are good and the open mics are good, but everything doesn't have to be that. Sometimes you can find poetry groups in your community or at your local library. So look for those too. And even though nobody in the room may look like you, you may find that your love of poetry brings you together. And that when you're talking about poetic devices, the mechanics of poetry, and different ways of writing, you never know when you're going to be inspired by different groups of people.
There you have it, man. You heard it here first from Kay, the reader, an amazing book. Will you please tell the people, Kay, where is the best place to find your book, contact you? How do they go about doing it?
Okay, so my book is available on Amazon. And I just want to say this, I know a lot of people are not buying from them right now, but I have had so many people tell me that even though they don't like Dazan or want to support Dazan, they're supporting me. And I really do appreciate that because that is where my book can be found today. It is on Amazon. Um, and I'm sorry, this is the art cover copy, so that's why that line is there. It is on Amazon. You can find me on Instagram, K_T_ the reader. You can find me on YouTube, K the reader. So yeah, look me up. And I like chatting with people and making friends and having followers, all of that.
Thank you so much for coming to the show during
Thank
National Poet Month. Thanks for blessing us with some live pieces. It has been a wonderful episode. I totally enjoyed it, Kay.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And thank you to everyone who tuned in this evening. You could have been doing anything else, but you
Anything.
chose to hang out with the two of us
Come
and
on,
have a
man.
good conversation and a good time. So thank
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
Jonathan,
yeah.
for inviting me to the Sean P experience.
Come on,
I
man.
really
You too,
appreciate
baby. Yeah. I love it. I love it. I will see you all next time on May the 2nd. I'll be right back. May the 2nd. My next episode, Dr. Imani Perry discussing black and blues. You don't want to miss it. Till next
Oh,
time. See you all. Stick around, okay?